So BDSM is an acronym that can mean bondage, discipline, sadomasochism, or bottom, dominance, submissive master or mistress. I think that people think that BDSM is all about violence. That's actually not the case. Within BDSM, it's actually taking violence and consent and bringing it together so that there's a gentleness and that there's actually a grace to it. I have created Mercy Mistress, which is loosely based on my own memoirs and my own life and career of being a dominatrix, a queer dominatrix. We have the protagonist as an Asian American queer dominatrix, kinky person who has trauma and is, working it out through her BDSM, but also helping others work theirs out as well.
Assume position number 2.
The more we put out there, then the less shame that there is, then the less stigma there is. There's less stereotypes or this idea of preconceived notions of what it means to be kinky. Then we'll be more of a full figure, There's so many people of different identities who crave kink. So I'm very vocal about my childhood being one from violence. There was domestic abuse happening in front of me as a young child. There was a silence. There is this, overwhelming threat of violence always within my household. So as I started going through sexual awakening, I really wrestled with sadomasochism. Sadist to me meant being an abusive person, being the monster, that was within my home. Being a masochist meant being a victim, which comes loaded with its own problems within feminism, especially as I was getting older to understand what it meant to be a strong female, which, my mother was definitely a strong female, and yet she was also the victim. My first forays into BDSM or kink, I didn't have the rules. It was pre-internet. So I didn't have the rules of negotiation. I didn't know what a safe word was. I even just learned the word hard limits. The kink world is actually the first place I learned that phrase, to know that, my body has a limit that I can impose, especially sessions that I had actually sought out with a dominatrix out in San Francisco Bay Area. And when I was actually able to call my safe word, and she stopped flogging me, she stopped whipping me because it had gotten too much for me. Actually, it was a moment when it stopped and she listened to my safe word. That was everything. I mean, it was just like this huge heat of fusing me back together and saying, this is under my control, actually. I'm not seeking out annihilation. I'm not seeking out somebody to hurt me. I'm not seeking out an abuser. This is actually somebody who is listening to me, who is respecting me, and is listening to my consent.
If at any point you need to stop, I want you to say mercy. That is your safe word. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, Mistress Yin.
For a long time, it was very tricky to talk about trauma and then also talk about BDSM, because a lot of people believe that there's a pathology then of being abused and broken, therefore you're into BDSM. And it's not that simple. I think that I held back for quite a long time because I didn't want that pathology to be out there. I'm coming out more and more about it because it has to be heard, and it has to also be understood that, so I've had trauma in my life, it's what I do with it then that matters the most, and like I've taken it and I made it into a beautiful thing, and I've actually made it into a space where I'm creating a service to be able to hold other people's trauma, for other people to then be able to speak about it and to do something with it. It's being able to then own it. It's being able to give agency to it, and therefore it's being, giving us a chance to heal it.